Okay, so once you open up Google Drawing, first we want to import a picture that you can work from. So there's a few ways to do that. You can go to Insert, Image. If you have one in your Chromebook that you want to use, you can do that. Otherwise, we'll just go to Search from Web. So I am going to do Justin Timberlake for mine. And then I'm just going to choose a picture. So requirements, it has to be a raster image. We talked about what those were. So we want it to be a regular image, not already like cartoon. And then we want to be able to see the person well. So I wouldn't do like a full body. I want to focus more on his face. And then if it has pretty good lighting on it. So I am going to go with this one. Double click. Okay, so I have my image. This checkerboard part is called the canvas. So we want that to be the same size as our image that we're working from. So I'm going to move my image up so it meets the corner. To make the image bigger, we never want to pull from the side because it stretches it. So I'm just going to undo that. And we never want to pull from the bottom because it'll also stretch it. So we want to use our corners. And then the canvas is still not the same size. So if I click on the canvas, there's this little like diagonal lines at the bottom. That lets me reshape the canvas. So I'm going to close it so it's about the same size. And then we want to move our picture off of the canvas. So anything that we put on the canvas will show up. So sometimes I've had students turn it in with like a little corner overlapping, and then there's like this weird colored part on there. So we want to make sure that we move it completely over to the side. So now we're ready to start tracing out our image. And we kind of want to start with the larger shapes first and then slowly work our way to smaller. So you want to go to this line button and drop it down. We want a polyline. So before I start tracing, I want to show you. It drops an anchor point, and then I can move my cursor or my mouse, and it will go from the point that I left it. So when we were talking about elements of art, it is a line until we meet it back where it starts, and it kind of wants to like hook back onto that point. Then it is a shape. So once you get a shape, it will fill in as a color. It is a little bit tricky to get really small areas. Okay, so there, this is a little frustrating. I did move my mouse, if you noticed, but it looks like it filled it in as a shape, but I never went back like my first one and closed it. So if the program, Google Draw, thinks that you accidentally clicked on the line, it forms it as a shape, even though it's not a complete shape. And then there's not, very unfortunate, there is not a way to add on to that. So you think that you clicked back, but once your line clicks off on you, you can't use that. So if that happens, you can just undo, or if I choose my select arrow, I can delete that. That's going to cause a lot of problems. Frustrating, but eventually I think that we get the hang of it. So we want to click polyline, and I'm going to carefully go around. I'm going to start with his whole entire face, I guess head, and shirt, because like I said, we're working larger to smaller. And you can see I'm not getting every single little line correct, because like I showed you, I don't want it to click on itself. I want to be able to make it all the way around. So I do not have to hold my finger. Once I click, then I can move. I just click and let go. Almost there. I made his chin a little pointy, but that's okay. We'll go back and fix it. So when I get to the end, I have not connected to here, and I don't want to cut him off like that. Let's see. I might have to. My screencast box is in the way. Okay, I'll do that and I'll go back and fix it. So what I would, yeah, it's not going to let me. What I would do, see if I can zoom out a little and show you. What I would have done is taken that, clicked it to here, and then back to here because his edge is cut off. So now I have my shape. I'm going to go to the select. If I don't hit select, every time I click, it's going to really frustrate you and keep drawing lines. So I don't want that. So I go to my select. And then there's two ways to move it onto the canvas. You can use the arrow keys on your keyboard or on your computer. If you hold down shift and then you click it, that anchors it. So I am trying to move it upward and I can't. Oh, well, it did let me there, but usually it doesn't let me, which is helpful when lining things up. So now I want to layer different shapes. So I'm going to, I think the next biggest one and a little simpler would be his shirt. So this is what I meant, like that. Okay. So then I can hit my select, and I just like to use the arrows on my keyboard. And you are going to keep doing that for every single shape that you see. To make it look realistic, you do need to get those shadows and highlights. So we just worked on drawing faces. Our nose is not just a line, it blends into our skin, and we can see that based on value. While I'm here, if it is helpful, I'm going to Control-C to copy, Control-V. So now I have two. And since we're used to working in grayscale, you can format, let's see, maybe if I right-click, format options, I can go to recolor, and I can change it to black and white. And again, that might help to see some of those highlights and shadows. But so then once we're starting to build shapes, we want to start changing the color. So I click on the shape that I want, and then okay, that's way too blue. So if there are not colors that you like here, you can click add, and then you can move this bar, which will change the color, as well as move this. So his shirt is a much like grayer blue. See if I can get something a little bit closer. Unfortunately, there's not like the dropper that lets us hover over one and select it. Okay, so that's decent. Then I can take this and find his skin. It's a little bit pinkish in that picture, maybe not quite like that, but for now, that's okay. And then I would keep layering. I would do hair next, maybe kind of work to beard. I would get some of the shadows on his face and then the highlights, shadows on his shirt. So then a few other things I want to show you before we get working. If you can kind of see right here, I went quickly and my lines are not lining up. So there's a few different things that we can do. If you double click, that reveals all of the points that you dropped, which are called anchor points. And then you're able to just move those a little bit. So this one, I don't want to move that out. I like how I got that part of the shirt. So I'm going to double click on the one behind it, and then I can tuck that one behind it. As you're layering shapes as well, if I wanted this to go behind, if I right click, I can go to order and I can send it to back, which will send it behind. Obviously, I don't want to do that. If you had a lot more shapes, you can go step by step. So I could say send backward is just going to send it under the most recent rather than pushing it all the way to the back. Since I only have two shapes, that's not really going to make a difference for me. And then the other thing I think that I want to discuss is, if you can, it's easy to see this one. All of the shapes by default start out with that light blue and they have a black outline around them. So we want to click transparent because like we did with your faces, nothing has an outline around them. And as you have more and more, it's going to look more realistic without that outline. If you want to do that, like if you forget it step by step, if you just drag anywhere, it selects everything that you've done, and then you could apply that or not apply that to all of them that are collected. If you have a lot of tiny shapes, like getting the shapes of his eye, I would do the same thing. I would create them, and instead of move them over one by one, drag, and I would be able to select them and then use my arrow to shift them over. Also, if you're doing little parts of the eye and you want to keep them all together once you've made them, if you again would kind of drag and select and get everything you need, you can also go to group. So everything that is selected now becomes one shape, which I don't really want for this. So then I could always ungroup it, but that can be a helpful tool as well. When you are getting the eye, it might be really hard to get to get little parts of the eye, and then it clicks in a lot. So with your trackpad, you can spread your fingers and it will zoom out your whole page, or zoom in kind of like an iPad or an iPhone would do. But I think that makes the blue line click even worse. So what we found most helpful in previous classes, if we select the zoom magnifying glass, well, I don't want to go out that far. Okay, I'm going to go back to 50%. Okay, so if I select that zoom magnifying glass and I kind of drag it into a smaller area, whoo, there's his eye. So now I can go and I can get those smaller shapes. And the black line, you can really see it there. And obviously I'm missing kind of the highlights. Okay, we'll go with that. So now I can zoom out, and then this is what I was talking about with the select tool. I just kind of come out to the side, I drag. Now I have it all. Okay, I forgot about this. So my picture is going to start moving too, which I don't want. So if I hit shift, click my picture, it deselects whatever you don't want. And then I just use the left and right arrow key. I can start to move that down. And again, if you have your bigger shapes, if I had the hair kind of in place, or maybe the eyebrows, I think it helps to line stuff up. Occasionally, I have a few students who like to keep this on the canvas and be able to line stuff up too. You can also go, let's see, there's a way to go to format and then adjustments. If I go to transparency and I bring it to the top, then I can kind of see my shape. I can see my eye a little bit. I could probably go more transparent and see if I did really get it in the right place. So that is what we are going to be working on. It does take a little bit of time to learn it, but once you kind of get it, I think usually students, once they get it and they've worked with it for a few days, really enjoy it. I guess the last thing I can show you, if you right click on the background, an easy way, you can just go in. Usually I wait till the end and fill in a color. And it's kind of cool to see the different colors, how they make such a difference with your picture. So when you're all finished, you would want to title it with your name. And then you could, let's go ahead and you can share it to me because then I'm able to see it with your reference photo too. And it should automatically save to your Google Suite, just like a Google Doc would.